Right, hello everyone. I had a very exciting day today. I'll tell you another time. But I found this in my bookshelf. The Elves and The Shoemaker, a Ladybird book. How exciting. So I thought, right, I'll read you that. I read it myself first and I'm like, so I thought I'd better read it to you. It says, this is a delightful story which young children will enjoy. Thank you for telling. Those who need extra reading practice will be encouraged by the clear type, relatively simple text and the full colour illustrations. So there you go. The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time there lived a shoemaker and his wife. Now, the man was a good shoemaker and he worked very hard, yet he and his wife were very poor. As time went on, they grew poorer and poorer. Well, I mean, he looks thin, but I mean, she's as fat as batter, so they can't be that poor. But anyway, at last, the day came when all the shoemaker had left was one piece of leather. He would only make one pair of shoes. That evening, before he went to bed, the shoemaker cut out a pair of shoes from the leather. Then he left them on his workbench, all ready for him to sew the next morning. I'm not being funny. If that's all he did all day, well, actually, he only had one bit of leather, didn't he? So perhaps fair enough. Funny, he only had purple leather, but perhaps that's the last bit he had. Anyway. As they were going upstairs to bed that night, the shoemaker spoke sadly to his wife. I have used my last piece of leather, he said. I have cut out one pair of shoes. Tomorrow I will sew them. When they are sold, I do not know what will become of us. Well, I'm not being funny. She'll be all right. She'll last another bloody month. Christ, I mean, he might peg out, but she won't. Blimey. He'll die and she'll probably go and get married again. That's what'll happen. Anyway. Right. The next morning, the shoemaker got up early and went into his workshop ready to make the shoes. On his bench, instead of the leather that he'd left cut out, he found a pair of shoes already made. He was astonished and didn't know what to think. Wow, that's a pair of fancy shoes, isn't it? Scratching his old head, bless him. I mean, look how thin he is. My God, and his wife's so fat. Can't believe it. Anyway, the shoemaker took the shoes in his hands and looked carefully at them. They were neatly made, not one bad stitch in them. He showed the shoes to his wife, who said, I've never seen such a pair of well-made shoes. They are perfect. The shoemaker and his wife could not think who had sewn the shoes. There's him. Oh, look, dear, they're marvellous. Oh, yes, dear, they are. What's she doing? Nothing. What's she cooking? Whatever it is, it looks terrible. She's cooked what? I don't know. Bread? Is that bread? Maybe bread. Anyway. Lazy cow. Right. The same day, a lady came into the shop to buy a pair of shoes. The shoemaker showed her the pair he'd found on his bench. She said, Oh, I've never seen such a pair of well-made shoes. The lady tried on the shoes. They fitted her perfectly. She was so pleased with them that she paid the shoemaker twice the usual price. Yeah. So, as the lady. With the money, the shoemaker was able to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That night, before he went to bed, he cut out 2 pairs of shoes. See where this is going. He left them on the workbench, all ready for him to sew the next morning. Next 2 bits of leather he buys, bright red and bloody lime green. You think he'd buy an ordinary light brown, but they are. Bloody Nundy weren't selling nothing. The next morning, the shoemaker got up early and went into his shop to make the shoes, but he had no need to do so, I told you. On his bench, he found 2 pairs of shoes already made. He took the shoes in his hands and carefully looked at them. Once more, he found they were neatly made with not one bad stitch in them. Well, perhaps they didn't have a bad stitch, but by God, they're the worst shoes I've ever seen. They're hideous. But anyway, that's how they liked him in the old days. That morning, a man. Well, they say he's a man. Oh, that's the old days men for you. Oh, hello. Right. That morning, a man came in the shop to buy some shoes. The shoemaker showed him the 2 pair of shoes he'd found on his bench. The man said, Oh, I've never seen such a well-made pair of shoes. I told you. He was so pleased with them, he bought both pairs of shoes and he paid the shoemaker twice the usual price. So I'm not being funny. It's like, he's a man, and he's like, little lad with him. It's like, hello, what's going on here? Bit of Jimmy Savile's. Anyway, so blah blah. With the money, he was able to buy shoes for leather for 4 pairs of shoes. So now he's making 4 pairs. I told you where this thing's going. Next morning, 4 pairs of shoes. I don't know where they came from. They're all perfect, and so it went on every night. He cut out the shoes. Every morning he found the shoes neatly made. Many rich customers came in. I mean, this was old days. So yeah, I mean, there's where's that man? There's a man dressed like, I don't know, the Witchfinder General. But the other man we saw, look at him. Dirty old sod. What's he doing looking at that lady? Oh no, he's looking at the shoe. Fair enough, I'll let him off. Anyway, so, and in time the shoemaker and his wife became rich. Yet the shoemaker and his wife still had no ideas who made these perfect shoes for them. One evening, not long before Christmas, when the shoemaker had finished cutting out his shoes, and just leaving them on the bench, letting someone else do it, he went to his wife. We still do not know who sews these shoes for us. He went to his wife. No, he said to his wife, not he went to his wife. Anyway, shall we stay up tonight to see who it is that helps us? See, look, they've got a few bob now. Look, they've got the fire lit. She's wearing her fancy duds. He's wearing his fancy duds. I mean, she's still as fat as butter and he's still thin, but, they're better off. Let's stay up and see who it is. His wife thought this was a very good idea. She lit a candle and they went into the workshop. They hid themselves in a corner of the room behind some clothes that were hanging there. Then the shoemaker and his wife waited quietly to see what would happen. There they are, sneaking about. Well, it's their own house, they're allowed to sneak about. For a long time, nothing happened, but as the clock struck 12, the door of the workshop opened quietly. In came 2 tiny elves. They were dressed in old clothes and their feet were bare. They did not see the shoemaker and his wife, who were hiding in the corner watching them. There's the poor elves. Look, they're tiny, like children, like child labour. I mean, bloody hell, they're like tiny little child cobblers. They haven't got any bloody shoes themselves. What is this funny book? Anyway, the elves jumped onto the workbench and took up the shoes that were cut out. They began to stitch and sew and hammer. They worked so neatly and so quickly, the shoemaker could hardly believe his eyes. The elves did not stop for a moment until all the cut-out shoes were finished. Then they ran away quickly. So there they are. I mean, look at them. They're teeny. The shoes are bloody enormous. I mean, true. I mean, the shoes are hideous. I mean, what is red and green shoes? I don't know. I've never seen nothing so awful. Oh, yeah. And there's the wife. Can you see her? She's watching. Don't know why she's got her hand on her hip. Does she? Oh, no, she hasn't. What's she holding in her hand? It looks like she's got a chicken drumstick in her hand. Is that a chicken drumstick? I don't know. Or something to hit them with. She was going to hit them. I don't know. Anyway, so they ran away after finishing the shoes. Next morning at breakfast, the shoemaker asked his wife, how can we thank these little elves who have made us so rich and so happy? Think he might have thought about that before. Anyway, I know what we can do, said his wife. We can make them new clothes and shoes. Their own clothes are ragged and their feet are bare. That's them discussing it in the morning. Still got the same clothes on. Well, I can talk. I'm always wearing the same clothes. Anyway. During the evening that followed, the shoemaker and his wife began to make new clothes for the elves. The shoemaker chose the softest leather he could find. He cut out 2 of the tiniest pairs of shoes you've ever seen, and he stitched the shoes as carefully as he could. Notice he uses like just the worst colour ever, but well, I suppose they haven't got anything, so they don't care. So there he is, cutting out the teeny-weeny shoes. Oh God, I hate the wife so much. I don't know why I do. And the wife cut out 2 white shirts, 2 small green jackets, and 2 pair of trousers to match. And she sewed them up with tiny stitches. Well, she bloody would. She couldn't use big stitches. The things were this big. Anyway, she made 2 little caps, each with a feather in them, and she knitted 2 pairs of wee white stockings. Wee white. Wee white. It says wee. Is it a little? A Scottish person must have written it. Where is it? Where's we? Oh, I'm trying to hold it up to you. Can you see it? No, I'm not very good at holding it. Wee! Wee! White stockings. And there she is, the old bag. I don't know why I hate her so much. Something about her face, I don't know. Maybe she reminds me of someone, I don't know. A bit like Jackie Smith. Maybe she's Jackie Smith. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway. By Christmas Eve, the tiny clothes and shoes were finished. The shoemaker cleared the leather and the tools from his workbench. He and his wife laid their presents on the bench instead of the usual work. Then they hid themselves as they'd done before and waited to see what the elves would do. So there they are. Oh, look, we're so good. We put that stuff out for them. So they do that. Just as the clock struck 12, the elves came in, still wearing their old clothes, and their feet were blue with cold. They jumped onto the bench and got ready to work. There was no leather, only the tiny clothes. There they are. Can't see them properly. No, I'm not very good at this, am I? Going here. What's going on? What's going on? The elves were astonished, and then they were delighted. And in no time at all, they were out of their old clothes. Then, laughing and talking, they dressed themselves in the little green new clothes, green jackets, white shirts, stockings, and the feathers with hats with the feathers in them. And they nodded and laughed. So there they are, getting changed into their new clothes after having made the shoemaker and his wife very wealthy. In their delight, this is a bit that gets me, in their delight the little elves skipped and jumped over chairs and benches. Then they joined hands and danced around as they sang. Now we are boys so fine to see, we no longer cobblers be. And at last they danced happily out of the door. So there's little buggers dancing out the door. I love the way, note that, there's cobblestones inside and out. So there's cobblestones inside the shoemaker's house. That's a very strange flooring arrangement. Well, anyway, so they buzz off, right? The shoemaker and his wife never saw the little elves again. But from that time, good luck was always with them. And they were rich and happy for the rest of their lives. Yeah, but that's to do some work at last. So I thought to myself, do you know, that's such a funny book because, like, what's the moral of the story, right? You find some invisible person that does the work for you, and then you give them more and more and more and more and more work to do, and then by the time you're like rich and like happy, you're like, oh, I wonder who did it. And then when you give them like a present, they buzz off and leave you. What's the moral of the story? I don't know. Never give your staff a bonus in case they leave you. But anyway, I just thought I'd read you that because it just made me laugh. It was the weirdest book. Anyway, ta-ta.